Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head to Blenkinge County and we're going to have a look at another beer that I brought back with me from my recent trip over to Blenkinge, Karlskrona and Öland. So I'm curious to see how this one turns out. This is a brewery that I've visited twice before and I have to say the beers that I've tried from them have been pretty good actually. So I'm particularly curious to see how this one turns out because it is, I guess, a sort of lesser known style if you like. So for this review then we are going to return to Bryggeri Skeppsgossen and we're having a taste of the Clara. So this one comes in at 5.1% ABV and they're describing this as a red lager. Now you don't see too many of these about. I know that in Scotland we used to get red lagers kind of fairly regularly. I think it was Tennant's and McEwen's both used to have one actually. You used to have Tennant's red and you used to have McEwen's red as well. But I don't know if it's supposed to be more along the lines of like a Vienna lager, which of course the Czechs would, I think it's a Svetli they would call that if I remember correctly. They've got the Svetli and the Leitzak and it's one of those two. So I don't know if this is somewhat based on a Vienna lager, a Svetli, or if it's something, you know, kind of completely different. So I'm really curious to see how it turns out. But I saw this beer in one of the Systembolaget I was in Kalmar and I thought it sounded very interesting. So I should pick it up and here we are. But this is my third review from this brewery. I forget the names of the two other beers that I reviewed, because they are quite unusual names from this brewery, but the first one was a Doppelbock, which was quite nice. I believe I reviewed that last Christmas, and I also reviewed a Schwarz beer from them as well, which I'm sure turned out very nice. So curious to see how this one turns out, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. Cool to review another beer from Blenkinge County as well. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Bryggeri Skeppsgossen before. Hopefully I can add some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Bryggeri Skeppsgossen then. So Skeppsgossen, as I mentioned to you earlier, are based in Karlskrona, which I guess you could say is the kind of capital town, if you like, of Blenkinge. It's a really pretty little town actually, and the main part of the city is on this kind of little square island almost, which is very unusual. But the company was founded as a restaurant by Joachim Bengtsson and Camilla Rosengren back in 2009. But they began brewing beer in April of 2015 just to sell in the restaurant, but they've began selling their beers through Systembolaget as well. And I'm not sure if you can order these beers nationally apart from special releases like the Christmas ones, but you can get their beers fairly easily in Kalmar and Blenkinge County of course. But they brew their beers apparently using a 3-vial system which has a maximum capacity of around 700 litres per brew, and the current brewer that they have is Masse Tolstam, and they're apparently looking to open up a bigger brewery at some point fairly soon as well. They do have a summer restaurant that they open up on the square in Karlskrona as well. When I was in Karlskrona that wasn't there. I think it was a Sunday that we were there actually, and that was probably the main reason that I picked up this beer in Kalmar rather than in Karlskrona itself. So I maybe need to go over there on a Saturday or something, visit the Systembolaget and see what they have actually, but of course I could just look online. But yeah, a brewery, this is probably one of the more better, I guess there's probably one of the better known breweries from Blenkinge of course. I know there's breweries in Karlsham, is it Bryghus Niton and things like that, but Blenkinge is a fairly small county I think compared to some of the other ones in Sweden. There's a lot of coastline, but I don't think there's all that many people actually live in Blenkinge County, but it's very pretty and I would recommend that you get over there and have a little look at it. Actually I would highly recommend that you do that. But yeah, an interesting brewery this one. The beers I've had from them before have always been pretty good, and they've got a whole variety of different styles in there as well. So pick a style that you enjoy from this brewery and I'm sure you'll get a fairly good experience out of it. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Bryggeri Skeppsgossen just now. You can see they're very well known for their artwork, but if you want to learn more about this brewery, you can check out the website in the video description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram, and you can also check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages to see all the different things that these guys have done. They are a fairly prolific brewery, you do have to give them that actually. But yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So this one, as I mentioned at the start of the video, is a 5.1% red lager. Apparently it's hopped with Columbus and Cascade, which is a nice kind of classic mix, and the malt base in this one is Pilsner, Carolite and caramel actually. Now the artwork on this one makes me wonder if this one is named after a person that they've met down the fish market or something like that in Karlskrona. There you can see the seagull stealing the fish. I've said this repeatedly, you know, I studied in Aberdeen and lived there. The seagulls that we had there are genetically modified. I hate seagulls. They're absolute bastards. Just cannot stand them. But yeah, you know, obviously a fixture there. You can see a little bit of the Karlskrona harbour outline, and you can see on the top there they've got their own bottle caps as well, so I'll definitely need to keep a hold of that. But here you can see on the top, this is the Bryggeri Skeppsgossen Karlskrona symbol, if you like. So yeah, quite cool actually. It says a red lager, oh, this one is hopped with Tomahawk and Cascade, so they need to update their website, because I think it was, I got Columbus from that, but Tomahawk and Columbus are not too far away from each other. So yeah, apologies for telling you a lie then. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the taste, and I'm really curious to see how this turns out. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening, and is it going to escape? No, it's not. But yeah, let's get this guy out and into the glass. So yes, in terms of its appearance, this one is definitely a little bit like, I think it would be a Svetli in Czech. It's definitely a little bit more like an amber lager, sort of Vienna lager type thing, this one. So I'm not sure if that is what it's based on. I mean, considering they're doing a Schwarzbier as well, and they've done a Doppelbock, I'm guessing that, you know, probably it is based on a Vienna lager or a Czech Svetli. So yeah, you know, this one looks very nice. It's very, very clear. I'm sure the two other beers that I had from them were actually quite hazy, but this beer is very, very clear. So as you can see, there's about a quarter finger of a frothy, I would say very light kind of fawn, almost ivory coloured head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But overall, it looks pretty nice and pretty much what you would expect from a sort of an amber lager, red lager, Svetli, Vienna lager type thing. So yeah, but crystal clear actually. In terms of its colour, you know, it's definitely a nice, it's a sort of mahogany colour, this one, definitely a nice mahogany. It's not too far away from the red actually that you've got on the label here, but probably, I'm guessing that with the quality of graphic design in there, that is probably intentional, to be honest with you. So yeah, quite cool I have to say. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style and things it is. So yeah, let's take a look at the aroma and just see how we get on then. Now that smells quite interesting. It actually smells a little bit English, which is unusual. It's got a little bit of that sort of grainy, Englishy kind of thing about it, which would be interesting. You know, if I was blind smelling this, I might think that there's Maris Otter malts in this one as opposed to the Carapils, sorry, just caramel and other things that are in there. I think it was Pilsner malt as well. You know, I would think that that this had Maris Otter in it just because of the way the graininess comes out. And that's a beautiful malt actually, probably my favourite English malt. I think the police helicopter must be going around. I don't know what, someone's been doing naughty things. Yeah, Wednesday evening, people are doing naughty things, that's terrible. But yeah, the aroma out of this beer is really nice. It's quite big and bready. You've got a nice bit of that kind of, it's almost like a brown bready note to it actually. It's got a little bit of that kind of toasty bread crusty kind of thing going on as well. I've always been a big huge fan of German bakeries. You know, you get some awesome bread in the bakeries over there, and the aroma coming out of the malt base here really kind of smells like that for me. Definitely a little bit of a toasty caramel note to this one, a bit of a biscuity McVitie's digestive kind of thing as well. You might be forgiven for thinking there's undertones of grainy notes and a little bit of a woody character as well. But you know, overall it's quite yeah, overall, it actually almost smells a little bit more English, this beer, which is kind of interesting. Wouldn't have expected that from it. But on the hoppy side of things, you can pick up, there's a little bit of earthiness in there. There's also a little bit of grassy and floral character. I'd say it leans more towards the grassy side of things. The earthiness, though, is quite prominent, actually, and sometimes you can get that from Tomahawk. But you've also got an interesting little bit of a fruity character to this beer, too. It's definitely got a little bit of a kind of... Cascade is always very good when it's in a lager. One of my favourite lager beers back home is Schiehallion, and it uses Cascade, and it always gives you these lovely kind of slightly figgy, blackcurranty sort of aromas as well. So keep that in mind when you smell this beer. It really does have that kind of classic cascadey note to it, the kind of red fruity, blackcurranty, blackberry figgy sort of things. It smells really nice, actually, quite an unusual aroma, this one, so keep an eye on that. Have a go at the aroma before you actually taste the beer, but we will have a look at it now and see how we get on. This one is the Clara, a 5.1% red lager, I think similar to an amber lager or a Vienna lager or a Czech Svetli, something like that, from Bryggeri Skeppsgossen in Karlskrona in Blenkinge County here in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. That's really pretty nice, I have to say. Definitely doesn't come across as English in the flavour. Definitely more kind of Czech, to be honest with you. I can't say, I've never reviewed on the channel any original Vienna lagers. That's something that I really need to address, but you don't get that many Austrian beers here in Sweden. I guess I just need to go to Austria. What a shame that is, you know. But with this beer, it really does have that sort of Czech breadiness to it. I've always said that when it comes to lager beers, I've always felt these are quite an underrated style, but when it comes to the Czech beers versus the German ones, because they've got their analogues, if you like, Helles, Letzak, you've got Dunkel, which is a Czerny, and then the Schwarzbier, which is Tmavi. The main difference for me between the German ones and the Czech ones is that the Czech ones are just a little bit more kind of bready, if you like. The German ones I find are always a little bit more kind of crisp. This one to me is definitely like a Czech Svetli, I think. If I'm getting the Svetli and the Letzak the right way around, it's definitely like a Czech version of that. But it could be somewhat, and that, of course, the Svetli is the analogue, or the... Yeah, can you say analogue? It's like basically the equivalent of a Vienna lager, if you like. So yeah, this is a nice example of the style. Definitely the English notes I was picking up in the aroma are not really reflected in the flavour of this. It's definitely more kind of Czech, if you like. But yeah, that's a nice beer. Really easy to drink, this one, to be honest with you. If you like a more... if you like a more malty lager beer, if you like, as opposed to a Helles or a Pils, you really want a more you really want something like this, either either a Svetli, or you want a Czerny, if you like, if you're going for the Czech beers, or a Dunkel. This is a nice example. But let's try and break this flavour profile down a little bit then. So in the middle of your palate, you can definitely feel a nice bit of a kind of brown bready quality. That blankets the middle of your tongue. The further you go into the aftertaste, it's going to get a little bit more toasty. It's a little bit more like a kind of bread crusty, like a well-fired bread crusty kind of note. Not as strong as you're going to get from a Tmavi or a Schwarzbier, however you want to call it, but definitely it's got a little bit of that slightly well-fired kind of crusty character to it, which is nice. If you move further into the centre of your palate, that's when the brown sugars start to come out. So yeah, in the middle of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of a kind of sweeter caramel, but it comes across as being quite kind of thicker. It almost has a teeny bit of a slightly treacly note to it, and it's a toasty kind of note that comes out of this one. But as you move further from the centre of your palate, as you move further out from the centre of your tongue, you're going to notice a little bit more of a kind of biscuity quality coming out of this beer as well, which is quite interesting. So I really like how that all goes together, if you like. Maybe there's a few woody undertones as well. If you go to the front corners of your palate and move in a little bit, there is perhaps a little bit of a woody undertone to this beer too. And like I was saying, the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, you do get a few kind of grainy notes pushing out of it. Either that, or it's a kind of toasty It's that toasty bread crusty note that I was talking about. I think more of a toasty, pardon me, bread crusty note, to be honest with you. But it's an interesting beer, this one. It's, I mean, it could be, I don't know, because as I say, I've not reviewed any, how do you say, any legitimate, any original Vienna lagers, if you like. It could be a sort of hybrid between the Czech take on the style and the original Austrian Vienna lager, if you like. So, yeah, it's interesting to think about that, actually. But it's a nice beer, and that's the main thing to take away. This is a nice, easy drinking but more malty lager beer, if you like. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate is definitely a little bit earthy. As I was saying, Tomahawk can give you that. Tomahawk in this one, incidentally, is probably used as the hop in the early part of the boil, and probably the Cascade is added in a little bit later on. But you definitely have a little bit of that earthiness there. As you come further forward on the tongue there, you can feel the nice sort of floral quality to this. It's almost a little bit spicy, but it's not overpowering, if you like. But then as you go round the front curve of the palate, it's definitely a little bit more lighter and grassy, I would say. Then behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those juicy, fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And again, it's kind of classic Cascade. But yeah, that's nice. So towards the back of that oily bubble that I was talking about, there is a little bit of that darker grapefruity note there, but as you move further forward, that fruity flavour just evolves a little bit more. You get a little bit of a, you do get a little bit of a kind of figgy, blackberryish note the further you go into the aftertaste, but I think the grapefruity qualities really do just linger there in this one. It's a really interesting beer, this one. As I say, you don't find too many red lagers about, and when it comes to a country like Sweden where there's not a traditional beer culture, if you like, they do tend to call things, you'll get Dunkels that are just called dark lagers, you'll get Schwarzbiers that are just called black lagers. With the red lager, it's a little bit difficult to kind of make out exactly what it's meant to be. Is it meant to be a Vienna lager? Is it meant to be a Czech Svetli or whatever? But I mean, the main thing to take away is it a nice beer? The other thing, of course, I forgot to mention there, is could it be an old traditional Scottish or English red lager? So that's an interesting point to make about it, actually. But the main thing to take away is that it is a nice beer. If you like a more malty lager but not quite as sweet and not quite as roasty as the Dunkel and the Schwarzbier respectively would be, then this is a good option for you, so keep that in mind. It's one that's made me think a little bit again, and as I've always said, I do like beers that make me think about it a little bit. But thumbs up to Bryggeri Skeppsgossen for this one. I maybe need to try like a Helles or something from these guys, or an IPA, because it's mainly German beers, of course, that I've tried from these guys so far. So I'll have a look on Systembolaget and see what other things they actually have. In terms of the mouthfeel then, this beer, it's fairly light-bodied. I think it's fair to say that. Yeah, quite a light-bodied beer, this one. Towards the top end of light-bodied, in fairness. Carbonation is very smooth. It's quite an oily lager, I would say, and you do expect that when the beer is a little bit more malty. In terms of IBUs, I think we're talking about 25 or 30 with this one. It's not going to blow the head off you, but it does have a nice little bit of hoppy bite to it, which is what you want. The malt base has a good balance between being dry further in the aftertaste. There's a bit of sweetness in there, but I'd say it leans more towards the grainy, dry side of things. And you've also got that nice bit of fruity quality to it as well, but the fruit is a little bit more darker and tropical, I would say. But I mean, overall, a really nice take on the Czech Svetli or the Vienna lager, whatever it is actually meant to be. It's a really nice drinking beer, this one. It's a sessionable beer. Keep that in mind when you try it, but I wouldn't hesitate to drink that again, and I'd be curious to know, give me some other examples in the comment section below of red lagers in Sweden. I think that would be really quite interesting. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Clara, a 5.1% red lager from Bryggeri Skeppsgossen in Karlskrona in Blenkinge County in Sweden. Cool to return to this brewery again. I'll need to see if I can get an IPA or a Helles lager or something like that for next time. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below, as always. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Bryggeri Skeppsgossen as well. Do give me some other Blenkinge beer recommendations too. That would be quite interesting, because I don't review too many from Blenkinge County. But cool to return to this brewery after quite a wee while, and I will catch you guys very, very soon with more more reviews. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys later. The Clara Red Lager from Bryggeri Skeppsgossen in Karlskrona. Stange, skål.